At number 10, we have Something in the Grove. SVX files on Reddit and some friends would hang out and explore a local small grove by them in Minnesota. They made up monsters that lived there by the abandoned sheds for the local kids, but they ended up having some weird experiences of their own later on. As they entered the grove on one of their visits, the air got cold. They all got chills. They heard twigs snapping and cans would fly from the sheds. And then on another visit, they ended up sprinting back down the path to get to a streetlight after it chased them, they wrote. And then on another night, something was standing on the tops of the trees across from them, across the grove, but it was right next to them after one of the friends yelled at it and they turned around and came back. What chased them, the guy who wrote it described as 7 to 8 feet tall, stark white and bipedal, but could run on all fours. So was this a crawler? That's what they're asking. At number 9, we have Seen on the Side of the Road. Ruby Burr on Reddit posted that he saw something that could be a crawler on the side of the road. Him and his friend were driving home when they saw what they thought was a person standing on the side of the road. It was standing absolutely still as they drove by. It stood 6 to 6.5 feet tall and was pale. Not like me, but more pale. It was hunched over in tattered clothes with stringy long hair. But something was off about it. Its knees were bent the opposite way, it had black pits for eyes and no noticeable mouth. He thought it was maybe just a figment of his imagination, but when he turned to the driver of the car, her face was just as shocked and filled with fear as his was. They sped up and didn't look back, though he said later that he wished he did just to see if it was real. On to number 8, Crawling Out of the Bushes. Another user on Reddit shared their own story, and they have actually gone on to make their own subreddit called the Sunshine Commission in order to demystify crawlers. Their own scariest experience was when they were letting their dog out at 2 a.m. As their dog was doing their business, they took a look around. They lived in a rural area in Quebec near the forest, so they saw a number of wild turkeys and deer. But something else caught their eye. A dark spot. It looked like a human head coming out of the bushes, but they didn't have a good view because of the lack of light. So they called their dog back so it wouldn't run after whatever this creature was, but the dog wasn't in the hurry. You know dogs, they just do what they want. But then the creature began to leave the shadows and head towards the street, and so they got a good look at it. It looked like a human with thin limbs, but a normal body and a slightly longer neck. So they shook a treat cup for their dog to hurry up and get inside and then ran and shut the door behind them. They watched as the creature crawled fast, saying it looked like a dog running with every limb broken, and it had no fur like a shaved animal. They described it as disgusting, an experience they did not want to have again. So that same user had another story, this time with creepier sounds. At number 7, the screams. So a couple months after the first encounter, they were chilling in bed watching gaming videos on their phone. They were getting annoyed with a reoccurring distant scream that they thought was coming from the video. But while they waited for another video to load, the scream happened again. From their window, they could hear the scream they described as a mix between a distorted scream and a pig having his throat slit, or a strong pain of whining from a dog. Out their window, they could see a human-sized creature move unbelievably fast through a pool of light there, and it was crawling like a spider. There were 3 more screams after that before it stopped. At number 6, out camping. Gray's 1974 was out camping in Minnesota last year with his wife and daughter. At their campsite, their tent faced a river. You know, quite picturesque. But as he was setting up a campfire to boil water for dinner, something caught his eye. Across the river, something was walking through the forest. No, not Sasquatch. It was something tall with incredibly skinny limbs. Someone shouted at a neighboring campsite and the creature looked over at him. He was shocked as its pale, bulbous head locked eyes with him across the river. Then it got down on all fours and crawled away at an incredible speed in the opposite direction. He did not get a good night's sleep that night. And then they left the next day because he was like, we are not dealing with this. No, it's a no from me. Number 5, crawler stalker. The redditor Carissa has been visited by a weird pale skinny thing all of their life, they say. It makes weird chirping noises and taps on their covers. At this point, they were sleeping completely under the covers as a fearful 7-year-old. One day when they had fallen asleep with their face out, they finally got a good look at what was doing this. It was 7 feet tall, super thin, with empty voids for eyes. They were frozen in shock, but it just moved around the room, looking around. It visited them more as a kid, but still, every once in a while they hear chirping and feel the tapping that signals its presence. They still sleep under the covers. Just block it out. While they don't think it's malevolent, it does scare the shit out of them. Number 4, through the bushes. So this was a person out for a smoke break on a porch. And this was in South Carolina. So as they smoked and played on their phone, they heard a loud bang sound. So they looked up at the fence at the top of the hill in their friend's backyard, but they couldn't really see much because there were bushes in the way. But then one of the bushes rustled and a humanoid pale creature crawled out. They described it as human looking, but animalistic in the weirdest way. Its legs were long and its skin was pale. It looked like a mix of a dog and an extremely thin person. They quickly put out the cigarette and went inside. So the next day, the host of that gathering said he found that one of the boards of his wooden fence was broken, right behind the bush that the creature came out of. So it did happen, it wasn't just something that they saw. Number 3. Hopping fences. So a woman who sleeps in the living room of her house since the other rooms are usually taken. A woman who sleeps in the living room of her house since the other rooms are taken usually spent her time outside on the porch, her own little space. Her backyard is pretty long and connects to an alleyway. So one night she was sitting on her porch, as she does, and she sees something standing in the alley. She told her kid later that it was a human figure, completely white and about 6.5 feet tall. It hopped their back fence with ease and started sprinting at her, disappearing a couple feet from the porch window. Once she unfroze from shock, she ran to the kitchen where her kid was and grabbed a knife from the sink, looking out the back door for the creature. Her kid was obviously a little bit confused, but understood the story once it was explained to her. On to number 2, climbing crawler. So SOKE1315 responded to a post with her own crawler sighting. For some context, she has an elevated back enclosed screen porch, so if someone walks past, usually only their top of head peeks over. Anyways, she had friends over and she was another person smoking a cigarette on her porch. She knew what different animals' footsteps sounded like from over the years and then heard something different from the usual. She felt dread but fought to convince herself every time she heard it that it was just a deer. Just a deer. So she moved from leaning on a post by the screen to the door into the house so that she could look out at the woods and not have, her back to whatever was happening. So the footsteps continued moving back and forth. She put out her cigarette and tossed it towards the ashtray by the screen, and then the thing that she had been hearing ran up to the screen, pressing its face right up to it. It had to be tall, maybe 8 feet, since she could see its chest up from the porch. It was humanoid with a bald head and dark eyes. It was abnormally pale white. It looked distorted and she couldn't make out other human features like ears. She booked it inside and her friend fell over in her chair as she saw it too. The group of friends then heard something on the roof. So they locked all entrances and huddled on the couch with knives out waiting for the police. They told them they feared they had an intruder as they were afraid the police wouldn't come if they told the truth of what they saw. And yes, another person huddling with a knife. Defend yourself. On to, last but not least, number 1, not the chickens. So in rural Missouri, Juggernaut 980 said that they had many experiences in what he thought was a forest school. His family had chickens in a coop when he was young, but something kept killing them. It would be fine for the first couple of months, but then something would tear open the wired fencing of the caged area and they would find 1 or 2 chickens torn up laying in the yard. His parents said, yeah, it's just wolves, wild dogs or something. So his mom was the one who wanted the chickens, so there were 4 or 5 years where they would get batches of chickens only for them all to die. So then his mom gave up. She took those years off, but then when her son was in senior year, she wanted to try again. It was, again, good at first. But then the chickens were getting killed again. And this time, whatever it was killing them wasn't tearing through the fence, but peeling off the wire roof. Kinda hard for dogs. This was a 5 to 6 foot high cage, and the dad's old excuse of wild dogs just wasn't enough of an explanation anymore. So then one night, after driving his sister home from a party, he pulled into the yard next to the driveway. They were facing the chicken coop and his sister just started screaming. He described what he saw as if it was Gollum from Lord of the Rings sitting on top of the chicken coop. Pale white with thin hair on the top of its head, red eyes that glowed in the headlight of the car, and it was hissing at them. He locked the car and flashed the brights and honked the horn, and it ran off into the woods. Their parents didn't believe them until a couple days later. Their dad heard the chickens screeching and went out with a gun to shoot the wild dogs. He came back white as a ghost and refused to talk about what he saw. Probably the same thing his children did. Yes. At number 10, we have a siren head. If you are lost in a rural area, keep an eye out. You could be the target of a murderous siren head. It is 40 feet tall as a telephone pole with dried and mummified skin. It is said to stalk and murder its victims as it roams around graveyards, woods, and rural towns. Its targets are usually lost travelers, people out for a hike, and sometimes even children. To lure victims towards it, it uses powers to mimic. Just like its name, it can mimic sirens, but also news broadcasts and even people's conversations. The siren head can use sounds of a conversation between a victim's loved ones to bring in their prey. If you get close, you probably won't be able to get away as it can run up to 240 miles per hour. That's faster than any car I've ever had. And also, to hide from hunting eyes, it can shapeshift into a tree or a tall pole. So the first sighting of the siren head happened in 1966. A family was on vacation in Arizona and took a photo on a Polaroid. It says Arizona Desert Family Vacation 1966, and that's written on the back of the photo. But let's move on to number 9, a skinwalker. This creature is from Navajo folklore. They often get mistaken for werewolves but are much, much worse. They can shapeshift into almost any animal and wear the skin of the animal they turn into. That element of wearing the skin is where their name comes from. In addition to this, they can mimic the sound of any animal or human and are said to even be able to take a hold of you. If you make direct eye contact with a skinwalker, they can put their essence into your body and control it. And you just don't know what's going on. No. So for a person to transform into a skinwalker, they kill a close family member. Once they transform, they gain stamina, strength, and speed. They are another incredibly fast creature with a running speed of up to 200 miles per hour, still faster than any car I've ever had. So when they wear the skin of an animal, it's especially creepy because many people share stories of encountering what they think are wild animals. But then the animals run away on their back 2 legs as if they are possessed by something else. A skinwalker. At number 8, we have a skunk ape, aka Florida's foot. So these creatures were first seen in Dade County, Florida in the 60s and 70s. They are said to roam in whole packs through Florida's evergreen forests. And they run upright on 2 legs. They are an unknown species of ape that have black fur and glowing red eyes. Their namesake comes from the foul smell the creature gives off. Some people say the smell is like if you would mix the smell of a skunk and a wet dog together. Not good. But there's even an official skunk ape headquarters in Okopee, Florida, and it houses attractions and merchandise. Part of it even houses the stories of Dave Shealy, a man who tried to hunt the skunk ape for 30 years. He tried to get it recognized and documented as a species to no avail. There are still rumors that the skunk ape may have a taste for the meat of humans, since people disappear in South Florida swamps every now and again. Is it the swamp, or is it the skunk ape? But another creature, number 7, the Wendigo. So the Wendigo, or sometimes pronounced Wendigo, has been talked about as having the power to curse humans by possessing them. This leads to the rough translation of Wendigo as the evil spirit that devours mankind. It stems from indigenous folklore, and the Wendigo is a cannibalistic creature that would strike during cold winters when food would run short and an intense hunger would take over. Wendigo are now described as a creature with a hunger that can't be satisfied, as it takes to continuously stalking the woods for hunters and travelers. While their thirst for blood can't be stopped, however much they eat doesn't change their physical form. They are extremely thin to the point that their skeleton nearly pierces through their skin. They smell like death and decay because if one finds you, that's what's likely to become of you. At number 6, the Chupacabra. So this creature was first recorded in March of 1995. Ever since then, it has been reported all over the Americas. It's mainly been reported in southwestern United States, Mexico, and Puerto Rico. Its direct Spanish translation is the goat sucker. This is from its reputation for feeding on livestock by draining their blood. Kind of vampiric if you ask me. So a chupacabra is the size of a small bear, but people say it could be some sort of ape. A definitive trait of its looks is the row of spines that protrudes from its neck to the base of the tail. Other hypotheses of where it comes from are that it is an extraterrestrial, an unknown species of reptile, or a surviving dinosaur. Whatever it is, I don't want to cross its path whenever it's feeling particularly hungry. I like my blood in my body. At number 5, Nyarlathotep. So this creature is a monster that appears in the works of H.P. Lovecraft as well as Auguster Leth. He is one of the cosmic outer gods. You wouldn't want to run into this bad boy since he can shapeshift into over 1,000 different forms. When Nyarlathotep puts on a human guise, it's usually an Egyptian pharaoh, but it could be others. As a smooth talker that uses propaganda, he amasses followers really easily. The followers then lose a sense of the world around them and are used to achieve this monster's cruel goals. He is deceptive and manipulative, and definitely a foe you do not want to face. At number 4, a Demogorgon. So you must admit that the Demogorgon that was featured in Stranger Things is not something you ever want to come across. Even in mythology, a Demogorgon is a god or demon associated with the underworld. Its name is even taboo. The other names it is referred to are the monster and man with no face. In Stranger Things, we see the monster as a thin humanoid creature. Its limbs are elongated and the arms end in claws. The skin is slimy, and don't get me started on its face. It appears featureless at first, but when it opens its full face mouth, you can see rows and rows of teeth. The abilities of a Demogorgon in mythology include interdimensional travel, strength, telekinesis, blood detection, regenerative healing, and durability. At number 3, the Dullahan. So the Dullahan is the Irish headless horseman, also called Gan Cian. It's also called Gan Cian, which also means without a head in Irish. He is said to have lost his head from it being blown off by a cannon, but it's never too far from him. He carries it by his side in his arm. Its head isn't even useless because it's said to have supernatural sight. The Dullahan can lift his head up in the darkness of night and see into the houses of those who are dying. He rides on his horse using a spine as a whip, and only when he stops is someone doomed to die. He takes the souls of those ready for death by saying their name aloud. The person named immediately dies. Had to include an Irish one because represent. Yeah. At number 2, the Slipmouth Woman, aka Cuchisikana. She got the cut on her face from her husband who slashed her face with a sword. So now she goes after others with scissors. The Slipmouth Woman comes when you aren't expecting her. She will come find you and ask you a question, and you better hope you know the right answer, or can give the right one if there is one. She is said to wait in the shadows until you cross her path, and she will appear in front of you as a woman wearing a surgical mask, but that is just there to hide what is behind it. She will ask you, "Am I pretty?" and you won't even have enough time to answer before she lowers the mask. Beneath it is her mouth that has been slashed into a disturbingly large grin that exposes her teeth and tongue. She will ask another question, "Am I pretty now?" And this is where you have to measure your reaction. If you say yes or scream, she will cut your face to match hers. But if you say no, it could be worse. If you say no, she will let you walk away, but she will be watching you, following you home until you think you are safe asleep, and then she will kill you. So maybe you could try to run, but she is quick and may just kill you for it. Is there a solution? Seems like not, unfortunately. Well, let's move on to number 1, Slender Man. The Slender Man is an urban legend and mythical entity that lives out in the woods. He is very tall with long and slender arms and legs. Some have said that he wears a suit and tie, while others say he is more of a tree-like figure with tentacles up to 12 feet long. Either way, he is a being to be feared. His typical targets are children, and he has been photographed lurking behind large groups of them. After abducting children, he leaves notes. Those who speak about the Slender Man in a suit say he used to be a normal person before he became something else. With willowy proportions, he appears to float, indicating he may be ethereal now. Whatever powers he has, he uses, as he uses his outstretched arms to put victims into a hypnotized state. Once they are helpless and under his control, he has his victims walk into him, and who knows what happens to them when they are in there. And I sure don't want to find out.
At number 10, we have Bigfoot. Let's kick off this one with the classic. I don't know how this dude didn't make it onto the first list. I think that's why we needed to do the part 2, because Bigfoot was like, hello, I'm the original scary thing caught on camera in the woods. That's me. How am I not on the top 10 list? Well, ever since the first grainy video was released, we have been on the hunt to find Sasquatch. That must be exhausting for all the Bigfoot out there. He's like, I live in a forest for a reason. Please leave me alone. Sorry, no can do, big guy. We need some of that footage for top 10s, and this guy has been caught on camera again. Let's take a look.
Several never-before-seen short video clips of the legendary and very shy creature. The group spent 5 years and $500,000 coming to this conclusion.
This footage was taken by a group of people who have dedicated their lives to proving that Bigfoot is real. Their organization is called Sasquatch Genome Project, and they all share the same hobby that involves a lot of camping. I think that's why I would never do something like that. I would totally help these guys if I didn't have to leave the comfort of my own home. At number 9, we have Take a Seat. So you're driving on a road next to the woods and it's perfectly nice, and everything seems to be normal. No crazy ghost lady sitting in the middle of the road, and then what do you know? You come across a crazy ghost lady sitting in the middle of the road.
So I can see like, oh no, there's a street lights.
Okay, that's a bit scary.
Yeah,
That's a bit scary.
that is very scary.
I love the reaction to the whole thing. When they see her, they're like, nope, no thank you. We're just gonna pull the car around in reverse. Sorry, we're getting out of here, bye. That's the biggest nope reaction I've seen in a spooky video ever. Most people are like, oh, should we go investigate? What's going on? Let's bring a camera and leave behind all the weapons we could use to protect ourselves. This is how you're supposed to deal with these situations. You see this kind of stuff and you go, no thank you. I would like to live, and I'm going to go home and forget what I saw. Keep the blinders on and keep living. No ghost stuff for me. At number 8, we have the most haunted woods in America. You go walking around in a place like that at night and you are just asking for trouble. The YouTuber Paranormal Files Highlight did what most of us would never do and decided to spend a night in the most haunted woods in America, just walking around. It's the Freedom Falls River State Forest, and there are hundreds of rumors about these woods. People talk about bodies being buried all over the woods and satanic rituals taking place there. While walking through these woods, this YouTuber came across this.
That damn noise again, it's like it's following me.
It's a little hard to hear, but I've watched the video enough times to confirm that I can hear the whales in the background. And it goes on for most of the video. It sounds like someone is yelling out in pain. Later he comes across a rundown chimney just sitting in the middle of the woods, and for whatever reason it scares the hell out of him and he just runs out of there faster than Usain Bolt. At number 7 we have Crazy Guy in the Woods. The YouTuber Phil the Thrill was just trying to enjoy some good old-fashioned dirt biking when some psycho stopped him in the middle of a trail.
Whose quad is this? I don't even know. Yo, dude. What's up, dude?
What do you mean, what's up?
What are you doing?
This guy claimed that he owned the property, but there were no signs up and he didn't provide any identification. He just popped out holding a gun and thought that would be a good way to do business with someone. Maybe try talking to people first before you start threatening them with firearms. He wanted Phil's name and address, but he was like, no way dude, you're just a crazy dude in the woods wearing a mask. I'm not gonna tell you where I live. If anyone comes here and starts riding around dirt bikes, you might just end up blaming it on me. So he tells Phil to get off the bike and then starts firing into the woods, just shooting his gun off. Holy crap. After that, Phil runs away and the guy literally rides through the woods trying to hunt down Phil and the other people he was with. Just talk to people first, and if they don't listen, then start shooting at them. It's not the other way around. At number 6 we have Stalker in the Woods. I think the woods are lightning rods for all sorts of crazy people. They just love to be hidden and it increases their ability to creep around. Like this. Let's check out this clip.
What was that?
Whoa!
What's this dude doing in the background like that? He's just creeping around the house. Don't do that, dude. It's weird. Apparently this guy's been doing this for a few days, so these brothers decided that they would get some footage of the strange man walking around. I think they should have just thrown water balloons filled with pee at him, and then that would have taught him the lesson. He would never come around again. Get pee thrown at you, it kind of ruins your day. At number 5 we have clowning around. I think if you see someone walking around dressed up as a clown trying to scare people, it should be legal to attack them mob style. Frankly, even if you see clowns just walking around trying to make people happy, I think you should be able to do the same thing. That's just me. I think clowns should be outlawed, but who cares? Two brothers were running through the woods when they came across this dude just strolling around.
Yo, do you have a knife? Yo, Patrick, he has a knife. Dude, what the?
Just your casual clown psycho walking around with a knife over a suspension bridge. You know, really normal behavior, nothing that a dangerous person would do. What he's doing is basically meditation. If you want to up the crazy factor on this video, it was taken at 7:30 in the morning and he's all done up in clown gear. That means this dude got up at 6 a.m. to get ready, drive to the trail, and then started walking around. If you're getting up at 6 a.m. to scare people dressed up as a clown, they should just lock you up, no trial. You're too motivated and you are too crazy. At number 4 we have Yogi Bear. Hey boo boo, you want to go in the woods and see if we can find a runner for some lunch? That's my best Yogi Bear impression. This dude had the biggest scare of his life. This kind of thing makes me never want to go for a run again. Well, I'm also not great at running, so it's probably just me looking for excuses not to go out there. But you have to admit that this is a pretty good excuse.
Holy sh**.
I feel like you can hear him poop his pants as he runs away. He speeds up so fast. That's the kind of speed you want at all times. You want to be hitting that bear about to kill you speed, yet you gotta have the effort, get it in you. Also, you can hear the terror in his voice, which is totally understandable. There is a 1,500-pound beast trying to take you as a snack, and not in the sexy fun version of a snack. He's literally going to eat your bone marrow. At number 3 we have people hate dirt bikes. Alright, let's head over to Russia. They got a lot of woods and people over there that you don't want to mess around with. Every time I see a video from Russia, it involves violence and some strange music that I've never heard before, but it slaps pretty hard. Well, the guy in our next clip was riding through the woods on a dirt bike when some dude walks out with an axe. This guy is even crazier than the other guy because he doesn't even own the land or anything. He's just pissed off because the dirt bike is damaging the trails and destroying mushrooms. This guy's ready to kill someone over mushrooms. They're arguing and then this goes down.
Mam ci rozjebać łeb? Ci kurwa zajebie, kurwa, zobacz. Wiesz, ci kurwa zabije?
The guy tries to strangle him to death. Just so you know, the dirt biker overpowers him and then pins the crazy guy to the ground. He tells him to calm down and then he lets him get up, and then the crazy guy starts attacking him again with a stick, but the dirt biker gets away in one of the funniest escapes I have ever seen. he kicked him over. Classic. At number 2, we have albino Bigfoot. Who knew there was something that was even more rare than the original Bigfoot? This guy must be worth more than all the gold Walt Disney was buried with. Also, some of you at home might be like, isn't albino Bigfoot just a Yeti? Well, apparently not. I'm not super educated on the inner workings of Bigfoot lifestyle, but from the research I've done, these two seem like very different creatures. And I know we've had Bigfoot on this list already, but this is different footage and it actually scared the hell out of me, so I wanted you guys to watch it so you could have the same experience. Now who knows, this might be fake. I mean, all the Bigfoot footage that we have seen might be fake, but this one is terrifying. It has some creepy sunken eyes, and at first I thought it was some mummy or some sort of undead creature, and it moves so fast. That's part of why I think it might be real. The part that makes me think it's not real is how chill this guy's reaction is. He's just like, oh, what was that? He's not praying to God that the thing doesn't smash through the branches and rip him to pieces. And for our number 1 spot, we have Swamp Lizard Thing. Okay, this last one was filmed during some night fishing. Right when you think everything is going normal and there's nothing to be worried about, you see something like this.
What do you think that was? What was it? Do you see it where?
Whoa.
Holy crap.
What is that? I have no idea, but it made all the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Later in the video, the thing turns to the camera and you can see it sort of posture up, like it's saying, don't follow me or I'll eat your whole family and then your kids and then all the people you ever known in your whole life and I'll chew your bones. That's what it looks like. I don't know what this thing is, but I hope that I never ever see it in my life. It's gross and it makes me feel bad in my tum-tum.